What's going on YouTube? It's Robert Hall, and today we are talking about the most powerful strobe that I've ever used. We're going to talk about how it works and if it's a good fit for you. So as we go through this, feel free to leave any questions you have in the comments, but I'm far more active in my photography gear chat group on Facebook, where you can get answers from me and thousands of other pros who are in the group. That link is in the description. And if you end up enjoying this video, please hit the like button to let me know and consider subscribing to see more. Now let's get into it. So this is the Godox H1200B. If you look closely at that bulb, you can see there are two flash tubes in there, because the point of this product is to take two Godox AD600s, also known as the XPLOR 600, and use them as power sources to power this head. So if you plan on ordering this, make sure you have two 8600s to power it. Otherwise, you're not going to be flashing anything. So it's really easy to get up and running. All you have to do is take these two plugs and plug them in where the bulb on your 8600s go. If you've used an H1200B, it's the same thing times two, although you do have to use a specific 1200 watt bulb. The normal Godox 8600 bulbs have 3 pins, this one has 6. It's taking the cabling from one 8600 and it's putting that in the bottom 3 pins and powering the bottom flash tube, and then it's taking the other 8600 and doing the 3 pins at the top and powering that top flash tube. So when you have your two 8600s in the same group and they fire at the exact same time, exact same power level, you have these two bulbs firing at the power, effectively doubling the power. Now, it's not exactly double because all of this cabling comes with a little bit of a price. As that power goes through, it loses a little bit of efficiency in powering the bulbs. So you should only expect to gain about 0.7, 0.8 stops of power in this over the use of a single 8600. You can see more about the power comparisons of this to the other Godox products in this video. The cabled extension, by the way, is 9 feet long. You can expect this to be about 9.5, 10 feet maximum height that you'd be able to put this on a stand, unless you wanted to mount the 8600s higher onto the stand, but then you're gonna have decreased stability. Now, if anybody's using an XPLOR, you're probably thinking, this has all the power I need. The XPLOR is definitely something that you can use to balance almost any subject with really bright conditions. So what is really the purpose of having more power than it? Well, I think there's actually quite a few advantages of using this over the Godox AD600. First off, of course, there's the total amount of power that you can get out of this. It's a little bit stronger than the AD600, meaning you have a little bit more flexibility in how far you can pull this back away from a subject. The second benefit is recycle time. You're using less power from each one to get the same amount of output that you would get from an XPLOR 600, which means your recycle time would be faster if you were shooting at an equivalent power and distance. So if you find that you're often at a high power on the AD600 and you're kind of held back a little bit by that recycling time, then this is going to recycle even faster. Full power on an XPLOR is about a 2-second recycle time, whereas if you use this instead and then match that power, it would be about 1 second. So you're able to pop off a little bit faster using the H1200B. The second benefit is your flash duration. Same thing happens when you drop that power and you're using it off 2 packs, you're getting a shorter flash duration for the equivalent amount of power. So you're gonna get a little bit more sharpness out of your subjects, especially if you're working with fast moving subjects. 3 is kind of a benefit and a problem at the same time. So we have two 7-pound XPLORs and this head. We're talking 15 pounds all wrapped onto one stand, and that's heavy, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people aren't gonna wanna carry that type of lighting around. I mean, it's still manageable to the point where you can carry it with one arm and have your case in the other if you're moving around a location, but it's definitely tough to hold over your head. But in comparison to using it with a Godox AD600 on a stand by itself is a pretty risky thing to do, which is why a lot of people have used that H600B. Even that H600B sometimes isn't enough to stabilize that AD600 with a big modifier. On multiple occasions, I have had my AD600 with like a 3 or 4 foot softbox tip over because there simply wasn't enough counterweight. You really need to have that 8600 and a sandbag on top of it, all low on the stand. If you're using the H1200B, then you now have two 8600s all the way down on a stand. I cannot get that thing to fall over. Even with the 5 foot softbox outdoors with some wind going on it, because it's evenly distributed weight on either side, and it's so heavy, it's 14 pounds of counterweight with only that 1 pound in the modifier up top, it just wouldn't fall over. So the two 8600s act as a sandbag on their own, and a perfectly balanced one at that. So I found when I'm working alone outside, which I do a lot, that this is my favorite setup when I'm needing a ton of light, because I can confidently walk away from this. I can walk 20 feet away from it, even if it's up 8 feet in the air, 9 feet in the air. I'm not worried about it falling over, because I've seen it, 15 pounds of weight on the bottom, it's just not going anywhere unless you're in some crazy windy conditions. So just what kind of power can you expect from this? Well, I took it out for a quick session and I just wanted to see like what this thing was capable of. So I just threw it in like a reflector and beauty dish, and I shot with my buddy Zach. It was in the evening around 7 o'clock, and I intentionally was trying to shoot directly into the sun as a background to see how dark I can make the environment in contrast to using this thing at high powers. And essentially it's just obnoxious. It's obnoxious how powerful this thing is. Again, the 8600 by itself, it's powerful enough to satisfy most on-location photographers. So this is just one step further. I was able to completely shut down the sunlight hitting a scene. I was shooting directly into the sun, and of course the sun's always gonna clip, but I was able to shut down the sky around a sun in HSS, which is a 2.5 3-stop power loss. Here you guys can see at full power just how far I had to pull the H1200B back in order to get a balanced exposure with my subject in HSS. So if I would have done this without high-speed sync, I would have been able to pull this H1200 more than double the distance that you see here, because we wouldn't be dealing with that 3-stop light loss with high-speed sync. There were times when I got this thing in the shade and it was almost too bright. I had to feather it completely away from my subject because it's just so darn powerful, even all the way down at 1/128th power. You can use this to pull back and just illuminate a ton of space, or you can bring it in close and just make your background environment pitch black, shut down any type of bright skies, even when you're using a soft modifier like a softbox or beauty dish. So here's how I set this up. I take a Kupo 3-way adapter clamp and I put that on the center column of my stand. You can also use a 4-way adapter if you have a bigger stand. From there, I mount the two 8600s on either side using the stand. You can definitely mount one at a time and it's not going to lean or tilt. Everything is nice and tight and secure. From there, I put the H1200B on top of the stand, and then I plug in my H1200B into the independent 8600s and make sure that they're in the same group. One note, if you're getting these from Godox, you might need to order the locking plate separately. They lock into the Bowens mount and they prevent these cords from slipping out at all. I'm not really concerned about it using my Kupo system. These cables aren't going anywhere, but it can ruin your light if these slip out and have any type of cross voltage running through those pins. I guess it can fry stuff. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. If you're concerned about the safety of your light, get that. But if you like living on the edge like me, then don't worry about it. But seriously, be careful. The other disadvantage is this is quite the investment depending on where you get this. You're looking roughly $300 for the H1200B, and then on top of that you need 2 Xplors to power it, which TTL versions $750, and the manual versions are roughly $500 to $550. Altogether, you're looking at $1,400 to $1,800 of investment to have this powerful of a light that's not even a full stop more powerful than the 8600. So here's some questions that I know I'm going to get. Yes, there's an LED panel on the inside. No, it's not very useful. Yes, it has that stupid clanky handle, and yes, it's still kind of a pain to get around this edge. I just kind of keep mine in the region of this is its tightest point, this is loose enough to get it around, and from there I'm pretty much good. I don't have to run into that clanking very often. Will it work with one 8600? I think so, but let me double check. I think because it's independently wired that it's not going to have a problem running off one. It's only going to fire one of the bulbs. It's a good question if you're also looking at the H600B, but you don't want to always use it as 2. So let's check that out. Yes, it works. I'm gonna see if I can see that bulb. I can't tell. I'm assuming it's only powering one bulb. Actually, let me drop the power down. Now let's see if you guys can see that. So it's only powering this bulb right here. So like I thought, it's just taking that independent power. There's no crossing of power going on. So yeah, essentially you can use it as an H1200B too. Now the other question I know I'm gonna get is, hey, I have one manual 8600 and I have one TTL 8600 or XPLOR TTL and non-TTL. If I use them both, will I have TTL? Totally no. It's independent, so your one light is going to function in TTL and then your other light is going to function at whatever power it decides to be because it's getting a TTL signal, which I think is the last power it was set at in manual. And if you put them in separate groups, let me think about this for a second. Okay, if we put your manual one in group A and your TTL one in group B, here's what would happen. You would hit the shutter. Your group B light, which is in TTL, would pre-flash. It would determine the power it needs from the one bulb, and then when the exposure is ready to be taken, they would both flash, and your result would be an overexposure based on whatever your manual group A is set at. I think. It's not gonna work great. Don't try and cheat the system. So if you guys are happy with the power that you're getting out of your 8600 and you already have a way of dealing with having that much weight on top of the stand, whether it be sandbags or an assistant or no wind exists in your city, whatever the case, if you're happy with the amount of power, you don't need this. If you're thirsty for more power and you already have some 8600s or you're thinking about getting another one and you really feel like you'd benefit from that recycle time, extra power, extra distance, then it's definitely a cool tool to have to combine the power of your two 8600s into this one mega strobe. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the H1200B. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and join Photography Gear Chat on Facebook if you want to talk about all things photography equipment with a bunch of other photographers. Until next time, keep on shooting, YouTube.